If you have variable income, you know how difficult it is to budget. Money is coming in each month and it's different, and you also have expenses that are different every single month. So in this video, we're gonna break down exactly how you can budget variable income. I personally am on variable income, so I can give you firsthand experience of what it's like. So welcome, my name is Kyle with winthehouseyoulove.com. My goal is to help you feel calm when you're buying your home and kick stress to the curb. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this. So first, what is variable income and who does this apply to? This applies to anybody who is self-employed. Maybe they're on 1099 income, they're on commission income, or even somebody who is hourly and has variable hours, or maybe you work a lot of overtime, or you get a paid differential. Or something big too is you work a side hustle. So you have your normal job, but then you also have a secondary job. You're getting income from somewhere else. How do you budget this money coming in? Because what we need to make sure is that money doesn't just flow in and then immediately flow out. And I forget what the statistic is, but it's close to like 80 to 90% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And what that means is money comes in and then it immediately flows right back out. And so we're getting income and then it goes straight out somewhere else. When instead money should be coming into us, we get to make the decisions for what we want to do with it, and then it gets pushed out where we decide we want it to go. So here is how you're going to budget with variable income. Number one is I want you to just ignore income altogether. A lot of people want to try to teach in budgeting or budgeting software to estimate your income. And I think it's kind of pointless to estimate your income because it's variable, it's fluctuating, it's always going to be changing. So why are we trying to predict our income and base our decisions based off of something that we know is going to be unpredictable? So we want to ignore the income. Don't worry about it. What we first want to do, secondarily want to do is now solidify our expenses. Because our expenses are the thing that actually drive how much money we need to make. So you need to divide your expenses into essentials and optionals. So your essentials are things like food, things like shelter, things like gas in your car. Those are the essential items. We first need to budget that amount. And what we mean is just listing everything in our bank account. So go through your bank account, see how much did you spend each month on essentials. Gather up that number and then write it down. Okay, that's probably one more. Then we're gonna look at optionals. And your optionals are things like, extra clothing. Obviously clothing is a necessity at a certain extent. Clothing, you have, I'm drawing a blank here. I know for me, it's like any extra equipment or gear that I want to buy. That's an optional in here. In your optionals, you're going to add that up and see what that number is as well. Okay, so those two numbers combined, your essentials and your optionals, those are now going to be your total monthly expenses. That's the number that you're trying to hit each month. And what that's going to help you do is really understand the categories of where your money is going. Because if you don't know where your money is going, it's easy for it to go places you don't want it to go. All right, and so this is a concept very similar to zero-based budgeting. And I have a video about zero-based budgeting if you want to watch that as well. But basically what you're trying to do here is only focus on your expenses and don't focus on your income. So the whole goal here is really to survive, then thrive with any overages. And what that means is you're going to survive. So it's all about what you're trying to do is meet your essentials first. Then after you cover your essentials, you put that money aside for essentials. Then you have money left over. This overage now can go towards the optionals that you want, some of that extra spending money, that fun money that you have. So what does this look like practically? You need some sort of system that when money comes in, you can set it aside. You can earmark it for, hey, this is for my rent, or this is for my mortgage, this is for my car payment, this is for food, this is for gas. You need to be able to set that money aside in some way. And we'll talk about that here in a second, some practical ways. But what you also need to do is anytime you get an overage, start looking at creating a buffer. So a buffer is just a way to have extra money set aside so that when income comes down, you have money still remaining there. Because for people with variable income, sometimes it's just this little flicker. And for others, it's this big roller coaster. Some months are really big, some months are nothing or really low. And so in those smaller months, we need to have money saved aside from those high peaks. That way we can kind of compensate for the lower months. So your buffer ideally should be 3 to 6 months of expenses. And again, how do you come up with that number? Well, you solidified your expenses. You know your optionals, or you know your essentials, you know your optionals, so you know how much it costs per month to survive. So 3 to 6 months of expenses is going to help you have a really solid buffer. Now, you don't have to have that immediately. That might be something that takes a year to build up, but having that buffer is going to make sure that you feel a lot more comfortable with the decisions that you make. That way, if you ever want to have a job transition, or you're working on your side hustle, or maybe you want to cut back on some hours that you're working, you have more comfort because you know you have that buffer there that's going to buy you some time if you need it. And that buffer is there only for emergencies, all right? It's not there for, hey, I want to go purchase something for fun, and you pull it out of your buffer. Your buffer is only there to protect you when you don't have the money that you need coming in to meet your expenses. So practically, what does this look like? There's a couple different tools that you can use. There's probably hundreds of different tools. I want to give you an overview of some of the ones that I have experience with. The first is an app called You Need a Budget. Shortened, it's called YNAB. I use this personally and I love it. It's about $80 per year, so it's something to watch out for. It does cost some money, but I found that the savings that I get from YNAB far outweighs the cost for it. Basically, what YNAB is going to do is it's going to teach you how to use zero-based budgeting. So you pull in the money into your bank account every time you get a deposit from your job. Then you're going to take that money and you're going to assign every single dollar a job. You're going to put it into a category so that it sits there. So when I want to go out to eat, what I do is I pull out my app and I see how much is in my eating out category. You're kind of consulting your budget, making the decision before you actually spend the money. So I can see, do I have enough money to actually eat out? And if I don't, then I have to borrow money from a separate category. And it shows you the cause and effect of spending outside of the limits that you give yourself. Another app very similar is EveryDollar. EveryDollar, I believe it does have a free plan. They also have a paid plan that comes with Dave Ramsey's course if you're interested in that. Something else is you can just use a Google Sheet. You can track your money that way. There's tons of budget templates online if you're interested in a free option as well. Just know it's a little bit more DIY. There's opportunity to make more mistakes doing it that way. And then also, you can actually work with banks that help you set aside kind of this envelope style banking where they're going to help you set up little categories for expenses. One bank that does this really well is a bank called Simple. Simple is a bank that I personally use. I don't get paid anything to say that. I wish, it'd be nice. But Simple basically allows you to have little categories inside your bank account without having to set up separate actual accounts. So they're run by BBVA Compass, that's the main bank. And then Simple is kind of the like tech-facing website side of that bank. And it's really great. It's a really great, simple way for you to manage expenses. What I do is I actually don't manage them in Simple. I manage them in YNAB, but I do have Simple as my bank account separated into checking and savings. Before I used YNAB, I did use their goals and expenses feature in Simple, and it really did help organize everything. I just wanted things a little bit more detailed and granular, and that's why I switched everything to YNAB. So I hope this gives you a really solid idea of what you're doing with variable income. Really, it comes down to don't worry about your income. Only worry about your expenses. Then your goal is to say, let me make sure I cover my essentials. Anything that's overage covers my optionals. And then make sure you build up a buffer. Doing those three things is going to help you have a lot more comfort moving through these next few months into the next year as you make changes with your job, with your career, with your position. So if you want to learn more about zero-based budgeting, this video over here is going to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.